welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really honing in on something lots of you have mentioned, actually speaking English fluently in, real life.
Right. Not just the grammar books or vocabulary lists.
Exactly. We're going deep on how to sound natural, confident, the way people really talk. We looked at a great YouTube video you shared, Real Talk, Real English Fluency from Easy English Talk with Jason and Julia.
That's the one.
So our mission here is simple. Pull out the core insights from their chat, give you practical stuff you can use right away to sound more fluent, focusing on that everyday language that sometimes feels tricky.
Yeah, and hopefully do it without overwhelming everyone. We want this to feel useful right now.
Absolutely. So let's start where they did, this idea of real talk.
Yes. What struck me immediately was how they nail that gap,
Right.
between classroom English and street English. They call it real talk.
Okay, so real talk. What exactly are they getting at? Is it just like informal language?
Well, that's part of it, definitely.
Yeah.
But it seems deeper. Jason and Julia talk about it as the English you hear all around you, movies, coffee shops, just casual conversation.
Right.
It's the language that operates a bit outside those strict textbook rules sometimes. And interestingly, research backs this up, a lot of daily chat uses a pretty small core vocabulary and loads of set phrases.
Which formal learning sometimes misses, focusing too much on just more words.
Exactly. It misses those building blocks for natural chat.
Yeah, that really rings true. I think many learners feel that you know tons of words, but stringing them together casually, that feels different. So why is using this real talk so crucial for sounding fluent?
Well, simply put, it's how native speakers actually talk, using only formal English. You'll be understood, sure, but you might not sound completely natural or confident in everyday situations.
Okay.
And beyond just sounding right, it connects to something bigger, understanding the culture.
Ah, interesting. How does real talk link to culture?
Think about the examples they use slang, idioms like no worries or I feel you.
Yeah.
Those aren't just random phrases. They're often packed with cultural meaning. Using them shows you're picking up on the social side of things, how people actually connect. It helps you fit in.
Right. They give some good examples with greetings, too, didn't they?
Yeah, common stuff like what's up or how's everything going. Their key point was these are often just quick check-ins. They don't always need a long, detailed answer.
Which learners sometimes overthink, feeling like they need to give a whole life story.
Totally. But like Jason and Julia said, a simple, not much, just relaxing or all good, how about you, is usually perfect. It keeps things moving.
So maybe learners focus too much on the perfect answer and miss the casual rhythm.
That's a really good way to put it. It's about the easy back and forth.
They also said using real talk shows you're aiming for naturalness, not just correctness. How does that help build connections?
Well, when you talk like people do in their daily lives, it just makes you seem more relatable, more approachable. People kind of relax. It creates a sense of ease, which is huge for building any kind of relationship, personal or even casual professional ones.
Okay, so embracing real talk is step one. Then they shifted to fluency itself and tackled a big misconception right away.
Yes, and this is so important. They called out that idea that fluency means perfect, native-like speech with zero mistakes.
Which is super intimidating, right?
Totally. And honestly, pretty demotivating for most people. It sets the bar impossibly high.
So how did they define it more realistically?
They framed it more as the ability to communicate smoothly, confidently, getting your ideas across naturally, even if there are a few bumps or errors along the way.
Okay, that feels much more achievable.
The focus shifts from perfect grammar to the overall flow and just getting your message across.
That makes sense. They also mentioned that in everyday chat, rhythm and confidence might actually matter more than perfect grammar. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's interesting how much the flow, the cadence, affects how fluent someone sounds. If you're constantly pausing, overthinking grammar rules, it breaks that flow.
So even if the sentence is technically perfect.
Right, it can sound less fluent because the rhythm is off. Like music, right notes, wrong timing. Doesn't quite work.
So striving for perfection can actually get in the way of sounding natural.
Exactly. And Jason and Julia point out, native speakers often use simpler sentences anyway and lots of contractions, which we can get into. The main goal is just clear communication, not complex grammar exercises.
Which leads perfectly into their points about the flow of conversation. It's not just single sentences, but the whole back and forth.
Precisely. Understanding that rhythm helps you know when to jump in, when to pause, when to ask something. It makes participating feel less uncertain.
And that requires really listening actively, doesn't it? Not just waiting for your turn.
Absolutely. Being present, processing what's being said, and reacting in real time, not just mentally rehearsing your next line.
That's where listening practice comes in podcasts, movies, real conversations.
Yeah, they really pushed that because when you listen like that, you're absorbing the music of the language.
The pauses, the fillers, like, or,
hmm Those quick responses people use without thinking, you're basically tuning your ear to the natural ebb and flow, and that helps your own speaking.
And they suggested mimicking, actually repeating stuff out loud.
Yes, by physically saying the phrases,
Mm-hmm.
copying the rhythm, the intonation, you're training the muscles, basically.
Like practicing a musical phrase.
Exactly. So when you need that phrase later, it feels more natural because you've already sort of internalized how it sounds and feels to say it. Their example, I don't know, just how it is. That's a perfect one. Very common, very fluid.
They also made an encouraging point. Fluency isn't instant, it builds. Keep talking, even with mistakes.
That's fundamental. It's a journey, not a switch you flip. Every conversation adds experience. Mistakes aren't failures. They're feedback. They show you where to adjust.
Then they mentioned thinking in English. That sounds like a big step.
It can feel like it, yeah. But the idea is to gradually stop translating everything in your head from your native language.
Just connect the thought directly to English.
Right. It makes your responses faster, more natural. It's building that direct mental pathway.
Okay, so recapping fluency. It's about comfortable, confident communication, not perfection. And practice is key.
Non-negotiable, really.
All right, let's move into the common mistakes they flagged, things that hold people back. What was first on their list?
Overthinking every single word. That trap of trying to be perfectly grammatical, choosing the absolute best word.
Which, as we said, leads to hesitation.
Exactly. Pauses, lack of confidence, it disrupts the flow and can actually make you sound less fluent, ironically.
Another big one, not using contractions. So common in spoken English.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
Native speakers use I'm, I didn't, can't all the time. The full forms I am, did not are correct, obviously, but using them all the time in casual chat sounds, well, a bit stiff.
Yeah, maybe a little robotic.
That's a good word for it. Using contractions is a simple way to sound much more fluid, more natural, more like how people actually talk.
They also talked about avoiding slang and informal expressions. I get why learners might hesitate there.
Sure, it can feel risky. Slang changes, it depends on context.
Right.
But Jason and Julia argued, and I think rightly, that it's a huge part of everyday conversation. Avoiding it completely can make you sound a bit detached, like their robot example.
So what is slang, very quickly?
Basically, it's informal language, often specific to certain groups or situations, and sometimes it doesn't stick around for long.
So it's about finding a balance, learning common, informal stuff and when to use it.
Exactly. Getting familiar with common slang and expressions definitely helps you sound more integrated, more natural.
Next mistake. Wrong level of formality. That feels subtle, but important.
It really is. You talk differently to close friends than you do in a formal work meeting, right? Using language that's too formal with friends sounds odd. Too casual at work can be inappropriate. It's about reading the room, adjusting your tone. Their example was good. Hey, can you assist me? Sounds way too formal compared to, hey, can you help me? In a casual context.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the last one they hit was pretty practical, just not practicing speaking enough.
Seems obvious, maybe, but it's easy to focus just on studying grammar or vocab. But fluency is a skill. You have to actually do it. Speak, talk to friends, record yourself, find language partners online. Whatever it is, you need regular speaking practice.
I remember that fear of making mistakes being almost paralyzing when I was learning. It's good to hear that emphasis on just doing it.
Absolutely. Progress over perfection, always.
Okay, so avoiding those pitfalls is key. Now, let's flip to the positive. The strategies Jason and Julia suggested for getting better at real-life conversations. They started with the most obvious one.
Yeah, just having real-life conversations, that's the best practice there is. It exposes you to how people actually talk. The rhythm, the informal bits, the spontaneous stuff.
And it doesn't have to be native speakers only, right?
No, absolutely not. Talking with other learners, online partners, tutors, it's all incredibly valuable. The point is just using the language to communicate.
They mentioned language exchange programs and online platforms specifically. What's good about those?
Often, they're just more relaxed, supportive environments. Everyone's learning, so there's less pressure. It's great for building confidence in a low-stakes way.
They also noted the difference between talking to strangers versus friends. How do those help differently?
Well, talking to strangers often forces you to be clearer, maybe a bit more structured. which is good practice.
Okay.
While chatting with friends lets you use more relaxed, casual language, that real talk we mentioned. Both are useful for different aspects of fluency.
And they made a really encouraging point about short interactions counting too.
Definitely. Ordering coffee, asking directions, quick small talk. Those little everyday moments add up. They build confidence in handling routine situations.
Something I hadn't thought much about, just listening in on conversations around you.
It's surprisingly powerful. Actively listening to people talk lets you pick up new words in context, natural responses, common expressions, intonation. It's like learning by osmosis.
And they came back to podcasts again.
Yeah, because they often feature natural conversations. Listening helps you internalize the flow, the fillers, the rhythm. And mimicking what you hear repeating bits out loud is great for your own pronunciation and intonation.
What about for people without easy access to daily conversations? They suggested simulating them.
Exactly. Role-playing with a partner or even just recording yourself talking through a scenario.
Hmm.
It's a great way to practice privately, spot areas to improve, and build confidence for the real thing.
Their final tip felt very manageable. Find at least one small chance to speak English every day.
Yeah, start small, be consistent, even tiny interactions build up over time. Making speaking a regular habit is really the core of it,
Well, this has been really helpful. If we had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive?
I'd say. 1, fluency is about confident, consistent communication, not impossible perfection. 2, real-life conversations, any kind, are the best practice. And 3, watch out for those common mistakes like overthinking or skipping contractions. Actively work on them.
So fluency is definitely achievable. It just takes consistent effort and the right approach.
Precisely. It's a journey, step by step. Every conversation, big or small, moves you forward.
Okay, so here's the challenge for you, our listener. Start using more real talk. Notice it, try it out. Don't sweat the small mistakes they happen. Use contractions. Listen actively for rhythm. And find a way, anyway, to speak some English every single day, even a little bit. It all adds up.
Absolutely. You've definitely got this. Remember, it's a journey, so keep practicing, keep learning, and try to enjoy it along the way.
And on that note, here's something to think about. Consider the everyday slang or informal phrases in your own first language. What do they reveal about the culture? And how might understanding English real talk give you that same kind of deeper insight into English-speaking cultures? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Catch you next time.